Hey everyone, I am here to give you our Saturday word drop. So I hope you're having a great weekend so far. And the passage of scripture that I wanted to read here is in Numbers. It actually starts up in chapter 13, around 27, and then all the way through chapter 14, verse 9. So I would encourage you in your own time to read this passage of scripture. It's one of my favorites. I love it. I have a lot of notes in here. But one of the things I wanted to talk about is just what are you naming? What are you naming things in your life? And names are powerful. Names are important. We talk to our boys all the time about their names, Matthew, Samuel, and Caleb, what they mean. And we are actually just talking about that this morning. But what we call things is important. And we see here in this passage of scripture that the 12 spies were sent to the land of Canaan to scope out the promised land, to see what the land looked like that God had promised them. And when those 12 spies came back, we see that 10 of them chose to name it something else, while 2 of them, Joshua and Caleb, chose to name it what God had said. They chose to believe it was their promised land, it was a land flowing with milk and honey, and that it was their land. And the other 10 spies came back and said, man, it has giants. We're not going to be able to take it. They're going to eat us whole, our wife and children. So much to the point they got so worked up about it that they said, actually, let's not even take that land that we've been promised. Let's go back to Egypt. So they even named Egypt as a better place than the promised land that God had given them. And so I just wanted to encourage you this morning. What are you naming? What are you naming? And is it what God says? Is it the promise that God has said to you? Because we can look and we can see how important it is. Joshua and Caleb named it the promised land. They stuck to that report. They stuck to the land flowing with milk and honey. Never was anything different coming out of their mouths. But we see with the other spies, they chose to name it something different. And let's stick to what God has named something. So if God has named you righteous, guess what you are? You're righteous. If God has named you healed, guess what you are? You're healed. Let's stick to that report and let's understand that a name is important. And what I choose to name something, I need to choose to come into agreement with what God has said, with what God has called me, with what God has called my children, with what God may be calling anything in our lives. Let's stick to what He says in His word and let's name it what He names it. Have a good Saturday. Love y'all.